Hey there. Ready to dive into something pretty interesting. We're going to be looking at Indian civilization today.
Always exciting.
But not just, the usual stuff. You sent this article about Itihasa, and it really, really got me thinking about how, I don't know, maybe history is less about what happened and more about, like, what it means to be, well, in this case, Indian.
Yeah, it's a fascinating take on history. The article really delves into this concept of ontological history.
Okay, ontological history. I gotta be honest, not exactly everyday vocabulary for me. Could you break that down?
Okay, sure. Imagine something simple, like just an apple falling from a tree.
Okay, classic example. Got it.
So, Ontic history,
Yeah.
right? That's like saying the apple fell, just stating the fact, nothing more.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Exactly. But ontological history, that asks, like, what does it mean that the apple fell? What does it tell us about gravity, the cycle of nature? Like, does it make us think differently about our place in the universe?
Ooh, okay. Getting deep now.
Right. And the article basically says that Indian civilization uses Itihasa as this kind of self-aware conversation with the past. It's how it's shaped its identity.
So it's like history isn't just dates and names. It actually, like, shapes who we are.
Exactly. And the article takes it a step further by looking at specific names from Indian history, like names we might think we know, but they actually have, like this whole other layer of meaning.
Oh, okay, now you've officially got my attention. Let's get into it. Where do we even start with something like that?
Well, a good place to start might be the name Pūru.
Okay, the Purus.
Right. Now, we might think of them as just, an ancient tribe, a name in a history book.
Yeah.
But Itihasa, it suggests something more, something deeper about that name.
Okay, so like there's a secret meaning.
Kind of. Kuru, it actually comes from the word pu, which means to cleanse or purify. The article suggests that they were seen as the ones who, in a sense, purified the land, prepared it for civilization.
So it's like their very name embodies their role in shaping Indian society. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it gets even deeper. Like, think about words like purohead, a priest who conducts rituals.
Right, right.
They purify the ritual space. Or even Purusha, which is often translated as, like, the cosmic man.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going.
These linguistic connections point to this deep, almost spiritual understanding baked into the language itself.
Wow, the ancient storytellers, they were pretty clever, huh? Sneaking in those deeper meanings everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. So let's look at another group, one that was closely aligned with the Purus, the Anu.
Okay, the Anu, what's their story?
Well, they were often described as those who, like, breezed alongside the Purus. And if we look at the root word, an, it literally relates to breezing.
Oh wow, so again the name reflects this close relationship. Are we sensing a pattern here?
Definitely. But it's not just about, like, describing a partnership or anything. It's about emphasizing their shared, like, cultural origins and what their existence together, what it meant for Indian civilization.
This is seriously making me rethink how much attention I pay to names. It's like each one tells a story.
Right. And some stories are a lot more, well, a lot more complicated, like with the Yadu.
Ooh, the Yadis. Now we're talking. I'm all ears.
This one's really interesting because the name itself it's rooted in ambiguity.
Hmm.
Like, the word itself evokes this sense of questioning. Who, what, why,
I'm intrigued.
And if you look at the Yadis in, say, more traditional historical accounts, they were known for shifting alliances, for being kind of, well, hard to pin down.
No way. So
Uh-huh.
even their uncertain loyalties are reflected in their name. That's wild.
Exactly. And this is where that idea of Itihasa being an ongoing conversation really comes into play. It's not just about saying this happened and then this happened. It's about acknowledging the complexities, even the contradictions, the questions, really, that make history so fascinating.
It's like history is a puzzle and the names are like clues.
Exactly. And sometimes those clues are even more, well, more interesting than the mystery they're trying to solve. Speaking of mysteries, let's talk about Bharata. This is where the article brings up this idea of ontological onomatopoeia.
Okay, ontological onomatopoeia. You're gonna have to walk me through that one.
Sure, sure. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Remember how we were saying that the name Yadu, it kind of evokes this sense of questioning?
Right, yeah.
So ontological onomatopoeia, it describes how the sound of a word, like Bharata, for example, can actually carry a deeper meaning.
So, like, the sound of the word itself gives us a clue about its significance.
Exactly. The root of Bharata, fu, It means to carry or even to sustain. So the Bharatas weren't, just a tribe. They were seen as the ones who, like, carried the weight of Dharma, the ones who sustained Indian civilization.
Wow, no pressure there. Their name is literally like burdened with upholding an entire civilization.
And it's not a coincidence that their name, it echoes in the name of India itself, Bharata.
Whoa. Okay, now that gives me chills. It's like their legacy is woven into the very fabric of India.
Right. The article actually draws a really cool connection to the word Bharata, but with a lowercase b, which refers to like a potter. Okay,
Okay.
it suggests that the Bharatas, they weren't just carriers of civilization, but also like the shapers of it,
Yep.
molding its destiny like clay.
Man, this is giving me like a whole new perspective on all those epic stories about ancient India. It's not just mythology. It's like a reflection of their values, their worldview.
Exactly. And it's a conversation that continues with the Kuru. Their story it's really deeply intertwined with the Bharatas.
Right, the Kurus, famous for, of course, the Kurukshetra War, which, by the way, still gives me chills. So what about their name? What can we learn from that?
Well, their name is connected to the idea of sound or even speech. Kuru, it's related to Kurukshetra, which, if you break it down, literally means the field of the Kurus.
So not just a battlefield, it's like a battleground of ideas.
Exactly. But the Kuru in Kurukshetra, it links back to ko, which means to do or to act. And this is interesting because while the Bharatas, they were the sustainers, right? The Kurus were the doers.
So if the Pharaohs provided the foundation, the Kurus were the ones who built the structure on top of it.
Exactly. They took all that wisdom, that accumulated dharma that had been, purified, carried forward, and they systematized it. The Kuru period is when we see the Vedas being codified, like these profound spiritual concepts broken down into something that could be studied, debated, passed down.
It's like taking something so vast, so complex, and making it, I don't know, tangible, something that could be shared, understood.
Precisely. They gave a sound, a language to these
Mm.
profound spiritual concepts. And in a way, it shaped the way we still understand Indian thought even today.
This is all so fascinating. So to bring it back to the article, what would you say is, I don't know, the biggest difference between reading like a dry historical account versus, really understanding Itihasa?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, reading a definition of a word versus really like understanding all its little shades of meaning, how it's used, where it came from.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of, understanding the bigger picture here, the article, it takes this idea even further with this, well, it's a pretty powerful analogy. It compares Indian civilization to a kind of fractal mandala.
Okay, now you're just using big words to make me look bad. What even is a fractal mandala in this context, I mean?
Okay, so think of a mandala, right? That like beautiful geometric design, often circular, representing like the cosmos.
Yeah, okay, got it. Now imagine that as a fractal, that pattern that repeats and repeats, no matter how far you zoom in or out.
Okay, I think I'm following.
So the article is suggesting that Indian civilization, it's kind of sort of structured like that.
So no matter where you start exploring, what name you look at, what story, you'll always end up back at those same core ideas of Indian civilization.
Exactly. Each of those stories, each name, every ritual even,
Yeah.
it's like a doorway into understanding those core values. It's not about, just memorizing one narrative. It's more about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything.
Wow, this deep dive it's been incredible. We started with something so simple, just looking at names, but now, I don't know, I feel like I have this whole new way of looking at Indian civilization. It's not just a straight line of events. It's more like this vibrant tapestry, woven together by these stories and language and the traditions.
Right. It's about seeing this incredible depth, this
Yeah.
complexity. This is a civilization that's been wrestling with these big questions for millennia.
Mm.
And those questions are still relevant. They still shape the way we see the world.
It reminds me of that saying, I don't know who said it first, but it's something like the answers are all around us. We just need to know the right questions to ask. And this article, our conversation today, even, it's definitely given me a whole bunch of new questions to think about.
And that's what Itihasa encourages us to do, isn't it? Keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep the conversation going.
Well said. Well said. And for everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to take another look at those familiar stories, those names you might think you know. You might be surprised at what you discover. Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. It's been fun.
My pleasure. Until next time.